GlideScope parts and a simple standard intubation with the GlideScope, doing things the way you normally do things. So this shouldn't be a real big surprise other than the new equipment. So this is the GlideScope itself, that is the non-disposable part. And then there are several blades that are all disposable, and the blades hook into the HDMI port right there. So I'll come back to the blade in a sec. There's a power button on the top. You push and hold the power button and the screen will turn on, and you want to let it warm up. And then the next thing is we're going to plug in whatever blade we're going to use. You'll notice at the top of the handle here there's a spot for your thumb, and that's really important because if you put your hands way up here and as you lift you're going to pop your camera off. So you want to make sure that your thumb, that holds everything in place. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Plugged in the blade, which is disposable, and you powered on the device. You'll notice that there's a battery on there. It tells us we have 2 hours and 33 minutes of use left, so it holds a charge for quite some time. And then on the left-hand side here is where the power gets plugged in. It's just a simple plug-in, just like your phone, that plugs into the wall and charges. And it takes about 2 hours for the device to completely charge from 0 to 100%. That's also the port where you're going to put the little thumb drive that allows us to record the video. And so that just simply plugs in just as if you were plugging in a phone. And then the other side is a USB port, which allows us to get this information out of it. Once that's plugged in, you'll notice on the screen there's a little camera with a recording button. You don't have to do anything. As soon as you plug that thumb drive in, it automatically records until you power down the device. So next we're going to talk about the articulated blades, which have quite a bit more angle on them. And if you use an Eshman with these, you really want to coil the end of the Eshman. We're going to recommend that you use a rigid stylet anytime you use an articulated blade. These are the two that we carry for adults. This is going to be your most standard one, and then this is going to be for really big people. So I would say this is your go-to. It's the smaller of the two. When we use a rigid stylet, you can kind of see how the rigid stylet helps us get the same angle as the articulated blade. So it's going to be you're going to have much more success using a rigid stylet if you use it correctly. So we'll just load it like we normally load, go all the way to the top, sits just like this. Once again, we're going to power on our GlideScope device. We're going to hook up our articulated blade to it. We're going to use the thumb spot for our thumb, and we see that we have the thumb drive in and we're recording automatically. As soon as the thumb drive is in and it's powered on, it starts to record. Articulated blade, rigid stylet. You want to hold it up high like a slot machine so that you can pull back against the top teeth, which will put this tip, make it move anterior and go up into the cords. It also gives you the ability to be right here to be able to pop the top of that stylet, which you're going to need to do. If you hold your tube like you normally hold your tube, you're going to have a lot of difficulty. So now we're going to intubate the patient with the articulated blade and a rigid stylet. We want to make sure we hold it up high here so that we can get a hold of this top of the stylet to be able to pop that stylet when we need to. Okay, if you hold it down below, you're going to have a lot more difficulty. So it feels weird, but hold it almost like you're pulling on a slot machine like this when we go in there. So I'm going to go straight down the tongue with this, and you watch the tip of the blade first in the mouth. So it's mouth, then screen. Look at the screen, see where you're at, then go back to the mouth with your tube. Go in until you lose the tip of the tube, then pull up and pop it right into the vocal cords there. You're going to pop your stylet, and then you're going to advance it. And at that point, we're going to pull the stylet out. And when we pull the stylet out, we're going to pull it out towards the patient's feet because it's rigid and it will pull your tube out otherwise. So it comes all the way out, and we just take one peek to make sure we're in the right spot before we pull out the blade. Slot machine technique of the tube, and you can see on the recording that I have a nice view. When I come in here, you can see the tip of the tube, and you want to pull the tube towards the teeth, and you can kind of see what that does to the tip of the tube allows it to get up there. Otherwise, it's going to go down below into the gut. So we're pulling back towards the top teeth to get it into the spot that we want to place it in. And then we pop the stylet to allow it to advance. So you would think that that's a great view, but the problem is that is too close, and that is a common error of the glide scope, is getting too close to the vocal cords. If we go in and try to put our tube in, our tube's going to go down here, and that is your cue that you are too close to the cords. You should not have that problem. You should be back here someplace so that you can drop the tube right into the cords. Now we're using the articulated blade. We're using an Eschmann, and this is not recommended, and we're going to show you why. When I go in with the articulated blade, because it's very anterior, I have a great view. When I put my tube in, my tube goes into the gut, and trying to get it, I can't get it all the way up into where the cords are supposed to go, and you'll be fighting this the whole way. And that is the important reason why you want to use a rigid stylet with an articulated blade versus the Eschmann. So for pediatrics, we have two pediatric articulated blades that require a rigid stylet with them. There's the S1 and the S2. The S1 is designed for neonates, so think about a newborn or a preemie. And then the S2 is for pediatrics in general. So in this kid who's about 3 months old, we wouldn't want to use the neonate on him. We'd use the S2 on him. The rigid stylet looks very much like the rigid stylet that we use with the adult, except for it has a removable piece here so that you can put the tube on backwards, because this is pretty articulated as far as the end of the stylet. So I'm doing the pediatric intubation with the S2, and just want to make sure we get above the tongue, right? And you might find that if you start sideways and come around, that you'll get a little bit better view. That's one way to do it. You can see if you can get it in there kind of at a 45 and then bring it around until you see cords. That's another way to do it. And then I've also seen people actually take the camera off, use the blade, put the blade in, and then attach the camera. The downside to that is you don't get to see all of your anatomy as you go in. So here I have a pretty well a grade 1 view. Once again, this is very articulated, so you're going to have to kind of fish it in there to get around the tongue. And then you'll see that that articulated stylet will help you put it right in between the cords. And once you hit the cords, then you want to pull your rigid stylet back a little bit so you can advance your tube. Otherwise, the stylet is going to hang up on the tracheal rings.